guys, Gemma from ASD Rocks. I wanted to talk about regression in general today because a lot of people have actually contacted me specifically in regards to wanting more information on regressions. So first, I want to say that regressions can be triggered by anything. And the first couple are definitely the scariest. So if you have a younger child or a child who is lower on the spectrum, and usually those come one in hand with the other. So for example, the earlier, it's commonly agreed upon that the earlier a child is picked up on having autism, the more severe it is. So if you have a young child or someone who is lower functioning, the regression, so we want to go into the area of probably being non-verbal, starting around non-verbal. Regressions can be terrifying because you don't know what's happening. So the best I can do when it comes to helping you guys understand how they work is to just give you my experiences. That's the idea of ASD Rocks, is that you see what I've experienced and therefore hopefully learn from either whether I did it right, did it wrong. You get to see it and you're not sort of just facing it for the first time on your own, feeling like you're the only one going through this. Regressions are usually triggered by, in my opinion, three things, right? Number one is illness. If a kid gets sick, they will regress. So if you've got a child who is starting to, like, you know, doing animal noises, let's say animal noises. A lot of kids make sounds before they speak or make single word sentences, usually because with the way that we talk to young children, we would usually have an animal and then we would tell them what to say. So we would go, elephant. I used to do this with Bo. Elephant. Right, and so he would get a visual cue and the sound, and then every time I picked this elephant up, he would know, after a while, he would know what that sound is. Always make sure you still say the word elephant, even though they're saying the sound. You say it, do it, let them make the noise, and then say the word again, okay, because you're reconfirming that that is the correct sound, that's the correct sound for that name. Now, if a child gets sick, you may find that they withdraw completely. So with Bo, he withdrew completely into himself. You know, when your child is 2 or 3, and you've been getting consistent good bath time, and I say bath time because those are the times that we really get to spend with our kids. We can't leave them alone in the bath, so that's really great teaching time. For me, the way I tackled everything with that 24-hour, 7-day-a-week program to get Bo where he is today is by using everything as a teaching opportunity. So at breakfast, when I sat with him and was feeding him, or he was trying to feed himself, we had flashcards. You know, every moment that I had to do what would be considered as a chore or something, and I need to bath him, or I need to feed him, or I need to dress him, was actually an opportunity of one-on-one work. So we'd been getting some really good consistent animal noises, bath time animal noises. We'd have all the animals sort of lined up, and let's face it, they love to line that up. They love the routine of it. If you can do the same thing every single time, even better. you know, it can be as little as a cold. You may not even really notice that they're sick. And all of a sudden, it's gone. Everything's gone. The sweet little smiling kid that, you know, would make the noises after you, or would make, you know, or was saying one word, is no longer even aware that you're in the room. And it is terrifying. It is also very, very normal. In fact, for those people who have had diagnosis before the age of, I'd say, 5, I don't think that you would find very many parents that hadn't said that they had never experienced a regression. So, what do? Nothing. You can't do anything. What's happening for the child is their body, you know, so we understand the term neurodivergent means that their brains don't and bodies don't work the same as ours. Their ability to sort through stimulus, their ability, you know, when we get a cold and we get, you know, irritable, or you get, you know, frustrated because your body is fighting something and you feel crap. It's the same for kids with autism, but it takes so much for their body to fight that, and they feel possibly so uncomfortable that all of the energy that has gone into doing those animal noises or saying those single word sentences, they can't do it at the time, right? They have to fight off this illness. Now, if your kid is constantly regressing because of illnesses, or is constantly getting ill and therefore having a regression, you'll get used to it. You will just get used to it. And it will also probably be a little bit of a typical thing to say, this kid's going to do this all the time. The other trigger that I've found in my personal situation, other than illness, for a regression, is the mastering of a skill. So when Bo went from, say, 1 to 2 word sentences at, say, 5, before he came out with the yes please, it was almost as if he completely disappeared into himself, was mastering that next step up, and then when he came out, it was like 4 steps ahead. It was unbelievable. But he had to regress to solidify that information. It's an incredibly interesting phenomenon. So regressions can also be a good thing. The only regression that I would say is a bad thing is the stress-related aggression. Obviously, we're all going to say that's a bad thing. Now, this can happen throughout a person's life, especially actually in the teenage years. So you've got a kid, they're on the spectrum, something happens, whether it be personal with their mother or father, or whether it be school related, there will be a regression. So for example, with Bo, oh my goodness, I can't actually remember what triggered it. It was something to do with school. I remember because I remember writing a code black email to the school just saying, no, I've never seen a regression like this. He had lost the ability to feed himself. Now we're talking, he was at least 12, 13 at this stage. I think it was about year 7, year 8. I can't remember. But I remember sitting with him, trying to teach him to feed himself again. Like all of he went back to using his hands. And I was like, what is going on? We've been using cutlery now. We've been cutting our own food for a little while now. But all of that just went out the window. And it was specifically, as soon as I sorted out the issue that he was having at school. And guys, you've got to remember, these issues, they don't necessarily mean that there's a bully or there's a massive problem with something. It could be the smallest thing. our kids can be preempting something, and usually probably actually are preempting something that is going to cause them stress, and therefore they're already stressed. So the way, when they're young, the terrifying part is losing your child. There's nothing that anyone can quite say unless they've been through that. Does that make sense? No one can go, oh yeah, no, yeah, I know that must be horrible. No, you don't understand. Losing that child, going within themselves and being so completely unaware of their entire environment. For me, like Beau was when he was born. So Beau was well over 1 year old before he even, in fact at 1 he wasn't even turning to his name. I've got videos in there. Please go to the, I guess the home therapies or the parenting autism video playlists, because those ones are the ones where you'll see Beau, anywhere from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 5, where he has quite a severe level of autism, or is displaying quite a severe level of autism. In the case of not turning around, he didn't respond to his name. We thought that because his name was Beau, he maybe thought that we were saying no, and so we stopped saying no and we said don't, because that didn't sound like Beau. But then he still didn't answer to his name, and at that stage I had already booked him in with a pediatrician by that stage, by 16 months. When your kid's not answering to their own name, they have no idea that you're in the room, there's a problem. And we'd had his hearing tested, so we knew that wasn't the issue. So when you do get them responding to their name, or when you do get those little tiny things, those little bits of feedback, and that child completely disappears again, the first couple of times that happens, you are going to absolutely poop your pants, okay? Because you don't know if they're coming back. You just don't. And even the first couple of years of regressions, they're tough. The only benefit to a triggered regression is that you know what's triggering it, and you have to write it out, because you are somewhat not prepared, but you've been through it before. Kids who are toilet trained will all of a sudden start wetting the bed. That's a really common regression when there's a stress-induced regression. Illnesses will also do the same thing. God forbid you get sick your kid gets sick while there's an actual stressor there as well, because the regressions can be huge. You can go from having a truly functioning kid who the day before was showering themselves, feeding themselves, dressing themselves, to a child who literally is wetting the bed, all the new foods that you've spent all that time introducing, gone. These regressions that we talk about, they're very real. They're not a figment of your imagination as a parent, okay? So you're not don't question yourself. You'll know. Other than, I've never personally seen anyone not come out of a regression, and I've never really heard of anyone not coming out of a regression. I have heard stories about children who were developing initially absolutely what would be called normally, and then all of a sudden one day waking up the next day and boom, they're autistic. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. And when I hear of it from the people that I hear it from, they are very strong about what it is that